Listen, if you want to stand out, if you want to be someone that people notice and remember, you need to understand what actually makes you different. You need to understand your strengths, what you see that other people don't, what makes you magnetic, and what your standards are. This is the whole key. You do not need to be different, you do not need to be more, you need to actually study yourself. Your perspective, your natural advantages, and how you interpret things. And once you understand this, you'll stop blending in and you'll become irreplaceable. Hi and welcome back to the YouTube channel, or to the podcast if you're listening to Spotify, which, by the way, you should follow. My name is ylvasands and I am so happy to have you here. So, first off, you need to understand that your perception of yourself is just that, a perception. Your identity is very malleable and it all depends on the story you've told yourself for a long time. And because our society looks down on thinking too highly of yourself, we tend to dull ourselves down and center our identities around what makes us non-threatening, but also mediocre. That means that you may not actually be aware of your real strengths, because the things that come most naturally to you often don't feel like strengths. They feel like nothing, normal, because you are so used to them. So when people say just be yourself, that's actually very unhelpful because you don't even fully see yourself yet. So the first thing I want you to look at is, what have you always been drawn to? What could you talk about forever? What do people come to you for specifically? And what is a transformation that you had in your life? Don't underestimate your natural qualities. They're way more powerful than you may think. And stop apologizing for taking up space, and never dull yourself down because you feel like you're bragging, because that is the first step to removing what makes you magnetic. For me, I always felt unsure of what I wanted to do and what I was good at. I knew I wanted to help people, but I didn't know exactly how. I tried everything. I tried design, marketing, acting, photography, and I was good at it, but it never felt quite right. I was just so lost and so confused. But eventually I realized that my genius wasn't actually a practical skill. It was really my insight and my ability to explain things in a way that people understand. I've always been good at seeing people, their strengths, and what they need to do to reach the next step. People have come to me in the past and said, Ylva, what should I do? I don't know what I'm good at. I don't know what I want. So in short, my unique strength is bringing clarity to people because I've felt unclear my entire life. I just hadn't seen it as a strength because I didn't consider it tangible enough. So I learned to use that on my friends and on people who needed clarity, and they loved the help. So in the end, I learned that my unique edge isn't just what I do. It's not a specific craft or skill. It's actually how I do it. And this is likely the same for you, because most people think their value is in what they do. But your real value is really in how you see things, how you interpret them, and how you express it. It's a mix of the problems you solve, but mostly how you solve it and which people it resonates with. Which brings me to the next point, which is that you do not need to appeal to everyone. In fact, nobody appeals to everyone. And before you say, then how are the big celebrities with millions of fans, have you actually considered how many people there are on Earth? Because if even only 2% of the world's population resonates with you, that is still 2% out of billions of people. That means that if you become visible enough, shining brightly enough, those people will find you. So, what actually makes you stand out? It's really simple. It's your story. Your story is your biggest advantage because it makes people relate to you, it makes them connect with you, and it shows them what's possible because you did it before them. And most importantly, your story is something nobody else can replicate. Furthermore, people do not remember information. They remember how your story made them feel. And they don't just trust what sounds good, they trust what feels real. That's why your highs and your lows are equally important. And this is something story does that information can't. It places them inside of your experience. They come to the conclusion on their own, so you don't tell people what to think, they will see it for themselves. It builds authority without you even having to try, and it builds real trust. And once someone trusts you, you are no longer interchangeable because they're no longer just listening to information. They're connected to how you think, what your perspective is, and how you made them feel. And that is what makes you irreplaceable. So what actually makes up your edge when we're talking about branding or just showing up in real life? What is the thing when you enter a room that makes people turn and just know that you are different? It's a combination of a few different things. First, it's your perspective, how you interpret things, how you form opinions, how you make sense of the world. Because two people can have the same exact experience, but interpret it in completely different ways. And that difference is your edge. Secondly, it's your pattern interrupt. This is what you notice that other people overlook, what you question that other people accept. Maybe it's something you've seen in your industry, in society, or in your relationships. It's why when some people talk, what they say sounds obvious, but at the same time so different. Third is your lived experience, aka your story. And it's not just what happened, but what you made it mean. So not just I lost my job, but I learned how to find myself when I was stripped from the one thing I thought was my identity. This gives you both depth and credibility. Then you have your natural inclinations, what you're naturally drawn to, what you could talk about forever, your interests. This is where your clarity already exists, and it's not so much about the individual topics you talk about, but what ties it all together. What is your through line? Your why. And then you have your expression and your natural charm, of course, how you say things, because the same thing said by different people makes it land so differently. And this is something I want you to lean into as much as you can, because your personality is intoxicating. So essentially, you are not irreplaceable because of what you do, but because of how you do it. There are a lot of people solving the same problem, but what actually makes you the right pick for a specific group of people? That's for you to figure out. Take Gary Vaynerchuck and Shelby Sapp as an example. They both teach sales, but they have completely different edges, which in turn appeals to completely different audiences. Shelby teaches women how to get into sales and uses her own story and her lifestyle as the proof. Her edge is fun and winning and independent femininity. Meanwhile, Gary is pretty much the opposite. His edge is that he's confrontational and he's for people who need a wake-up call about how hard they're actually working. His brand isn't about the lifestyle, it's about the lecture, and he delivers his message with confrontation and clarity. So if there's anything I want you to take away from this, is to use your story. It is what gives everything you say context. Without it, you're just another voice. But with it, you become recognizable. Because people don't remember facts, they remember how you made them feel. Finally, you shouldn't try to be unique because you already are. You just need to identify, refine, and lean into it. What do you naturally talk about? What changed how you see things? What do people come to you for, and what do you notice that other people don't? So when you combine how you think, what you've lived, and how you naturally express yourself, that is your edge. So as you can see, the things that feel the most obvious to you is exactly what makes you irreplaceable. So that brings me to the end of this episode. I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please make sure to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe on YouTube, and follow the podcast on Spotify. And you can also follow me on Instagram at ylvasands. As always, I appreciate you so much, and I really hope to see you next time. Take care. Bye.